I'd like to thank you all for coming this afternoon. Welcome to the National Pavilion of Antigua and Barbuda, where we're going to be talking about environmental justice as a civil right. So this is the entrance to our National Pavilion at Don Orione. And in respect of the theme of free space, this actually is a free space and it's accessible to all. And again, we hope that everyone will come and just sit down and relax and enjoy the tranquility of the space. This is our exhibition gallery, which we were lucky enough to organize with Don Orione Artigianelli. And we hope that everyone will understand this as a kind of classroom. You can see this is a meeting we held yesterday morning with the curator and program director of the U.S. National Pavilion. And so it really is a dynamic space where we have meetings. In the top right-hand corner is a picture of part of the space where you see a TV monitor where we're having online sessions with students from islands. And we're working with the islands of Antigua and Barbuda and Manhattan and Venice. So when we talk about environmental justice as a civil right in a small developing nation like Antigua and Barbuda, we're talking about something that's pretty serious. And this is the result of the address that the Honorable Gaston A. Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, made at the 72nd meeting of the United Nations last September. It was shortly after a Category 5+ hurricane, which you can see in the picture above, devastated the island of Barbuda.
We are the least of the polluters, but the largest of the casualties. The unfairness, injustice, and inequality are painfully obvious.
Barbuda is an island, our sister island, that was ravaged by Hurricane Irma, and we had to move all the people over to Antigua, and it's now in that rebuilding phase, and so therefore this, I think, offers an opportunity for us to showcase what can be done in terms of rebuilding a country and making it stronger and more resilient.
Well, I've seen a lot of storms in my time, but Hurricane Irma takes it all. And it's the first time for 500 years, based on data we're seeing, where Barbudans have been evacuated. But as you know, Barbudans are resilient people, and we will come back. I've seen it from where, especially Hurricane Irma, where one child died. And that is a record because we've seen it over and over and over, but no one died. We run to the caves. The caves were our rescue in those days.
So we need to do a very careful selection of what goes into a place in order to preserve its history and its heritage, nature, and that provides a unique opportunity for people that visit Barbuda. In Barbuda, as you can see in the map that was created by my colleague, Dr. Becky Boger, Becky and I have been working in Barbuda for 12 years. I'm an archaeologist and environmental scientist, and we are trying to look at the history, the last 5,000 years that Barbuda has seen people on its land, how these people have lived, what did they eat, what was the environment like, and how did they survive both the environment and the people after major storms. And right now, the future archaeology is being created with different tales to tell. The eyes and artistry of Mohammed Walbrook is bringing those images to us, to the world today, but it also is creating the history of the future.
I took it upon myself after Hurricane Irma to document what would have happened to Barbuda after the hurricane, because I knew that after a storm of that magnitude, Barbuda will never ever be the same again. And I actually stayed there after they evacuated everyone else for about a week and continued photographing.
The second of the three things we'll talk about is the expansion of the Botanical Gardens in St. John's, Antigua, which are known as Victoria Park. And this property was created shortly after the abolition of slavery as a civil right. Many people were living in an urban situation and malaria was a problem. And so legislation was passed to create a healthy space that all could enjoy. So we're going to talk very quickly now about the restoration of the government house. It is the first LEED registered property in Antigua and Barbuda, which is unusual for a building that's over 200 years old. And we've also had the honor of receiving status on the World Monuments Fund watch list for 2018.
And as a charity, what we are responsible for is essentially championing and conserving extraordinary buildings and monuments across the entire globe. And the reason we've selected Government House is because historically it's very important. Here you have probably the first planned grid town in the Americas, and in that town you have an early place where the British Crown was represented. But, this is the big but really, the thing which really sets Government House apart is because of the way in which this project is being carried out. Government House is being restored with the people of Antigua and Barbuda. It's being restored in a way which not only is important for heritage, but restored in ways which involve prisoners and people who school children. It's involving a whole range of social issues through which heritage happens to be the medium of communication. So it's for that reason that actually Government House is on the World Monuments Watch list for 2018, and we're absolutely delighted to be involved.
As was mentioned earlier, we spoke about the persons who are incarcerated who are learning different trades so that when they leave prison, they will be able to function in society more smoothly than they did prior to entering. We have as well the therapeutic garden experiences which we'll be creating so that those who are not well, particularly those who are struggling with the challenge of mental and emotional issues. As one contributor to our catalogue for this year mentioned, her name is Lafleur, who is a media specialist from the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, that Government House is a place of tranquility and humanity, and it showcases His Excellency's authentic compassion for the incarcerated and differently abled.
We were looking at 3 projects that showcase very local concerns of recovery and rebuilding and restoration. But what we realized is that the large and encompassing issue of climate change is not something that Antigua and Barbuda are alone in facing, and it's not something that they should be alone in facing. Youth in Antigua and Barbuda, as well as in Venice and New York, to create the beginnings of a global network of young people living on islands impacted by climate change. So we organized online video chats connecting students from these 3 different countries with 3 different backgrounds to learn from each other and to talk about what they're experiencing now from climate change, what they anticipate experiencing, what they hope for their future, and what they think of the theme, environmental justice as a civil right. And we're very lucky today to be joined by some of the students who participated in our session, so I'll invite them all to come up on stage. So these are students from Ca' Foscarini.
Il confronto con i ragazzi di New York e Antigua e Barbuda è stato decisivo a questa crescita di consapevolezza del nostro vivere e capire le nostre città e di coglierne le fragilità davanti al cambiamento climatico.
Ognuno di noi vive la propria isola in maniera diversa, affronta i problemi in maniera diversa, pensa alla propria specificità e pensa in modo egoistico anche alla propria fragilità davanti ai cambiamenti. Ma la diversità non deve precludere la lotta comune per un diritto fondamentale. E questo obiettivo ci ha spinto così, in queste settimane, a scoprire le affinità e soprattutto la necessità di unirci per costruire un orizzonte di sviluppo comune, di inseguire insieme una completa giustizia ambientale.
When I became Governor General 4 years ago, I have several duties. One is constitutional, another is ceremonial, and another one is community outreach, and I would say promoting social cohesion. And we had about 16 organizations that we were patron of. And so my wife decided to take on that role of dealing with the organizations. And she set up an umbrella organization called the Halo. And I'm hoping that we can strengthen the relationship between Venice and Antigua in the various areas of human endeavor.
We're honored and very appreciative of the attention to the Venetian setting and the sensitivity demonstrated by the Antigua and Barbuda National Pavilion. Although on different sides of the world, there are so many parallels that can be drawn between Antigua and Barbuda and Venice, especially as small islands with inherent vulnerabilities already challenged by the effects of climate change. The Venice Lagoon only has 1/3 of the area of salt marshes that it had a century ago. Shipping channels and intense port traffic are exacerbating sediment loss through erosion and dredging. Average water levels are creeping upwards and accelerating the degradation of the urban fabric, causing more frequent interruptions of routine activities like transport services and obstructing businesses, etc. Venice, in the form of an open-air museum or theme park with an intense flow of transient visitors, would not be able to continue being Venice for very long. So just like Antigua and Barbuda feel the effects of climate change due to global trends, Venice is having the same global trends suffocated through unmanaged mass tourism.
Well, you can see that environmental justice as a civil right affects us on many levels, and that there's a great topic for future conversation. So again, we hope that you'll visit our National Pavilion, and that we hope you'll also visit Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you all for coming.